Okay, this is Steve Butler. He's a local from here, and he's
Oh,
going
yeah.
to explain how he grew up, what education he got, and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to say, how many of you seen this commercial? It's for a law firm in Wichita, and they always give somebody
Yeah.
award for their service. It cracks me up because this one guy, they say, we appreciate your service and everything you did for the country and your all that. And he says, I loved every minute of it. And I'm thinking,
Liar.
this
Okay.
guy's okay. So anyway,
Where'd you grow up at?
I grew up here in McPherson, born and raised here.
Went to high school here.
Went to McPherson High School, and I actually dropped out of high school with just a semester left to go, which was a bad idea. But I thought, now what am I going to do? So I thought, I was with a friend of mine one day, and he had a car. I was 18. I said, let's go to, we were in Hutch. And I said, take me by the recruiter's office. And we went in there, and I signed up. And the guy had me he said, look through the job list there, see what you might like to do. So I started looking. I was a clerk typist, truck driver, all that. I said, well, if I'm joining the Army, I want to do something that has to do with war, type stuff. So I saw this thing that said combat engineer, and I thought, well, that sounds like a good idea. Combat, that sounds like war. And then engineer, that sounds smart, kind of intelligent. So I thought, let's try that. And so, of course, I didn't end up in that, but I went home and told my dad that I'd signed up for the Army, and he said, "What?" He said, "You'll never make it a day in there." He said, "You." And I thought, "Gee, thanks for that, Dad." And so the next thing I know, I'm leaving for the induction center in Kansas City, and about 45 minutes to an hour in the induction center, I started thinking this was a bad idea. This was really stupid. And oh boy, it just, I just thought it was not going to work. And then I got on the scale, and I was a pretty small guy back then. I weighed 106 pounds.
Soaking wet.
Yeah. And these two guys that were standing there said, "Oh, well, you're 110 is the minimum, but he'll put on some weight in basic." So they passed me on through. And then the next thing I know, I'm on a plane going to somewhere in Louisiana, I guess, because I ended up in Fort Polk, Louisiana. Beautiful place. And hot. I had a watch, and I get off the bus or plane when we got close to Fort Polk, and when I got off, I looked at the watch, and it had fogged up and stopped working and never started again. That's when I knew about the humidity. And got up there and lined up, and they were having a formation, trying to get everybody to stand, make a formation. And I come running up there with my little bag of stuff that was supposed to bring, and I just stood up there at the front. And the drill sergeant said, "What are you doing? You go to the back of the formation and start a new line." And he said, "Meatball." So that was my name for the rest of basic training, Meatball. And I was this drill sergeant's
beat your best friend.
Yeah, well, oh yeah, yeah. Had me go get his iced tea out in the field and always hollering at me, "Meatball, come here, come get me some more iced tea." And oh yeah, he was out of shape. He never ran or walked to the range. He always rode in a Jeep. And yeah, so we really loved that guy. Anyway, so I got through basic training, and when we did that final PT test or whatever it was, I think I developed a migraine headache and just wasn't even, my head was all scrambled up when I was going through the test. And come to the part where you got to weave through all these barriers and different stuff, and I lost it. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just jumping around and crawling through stuff. And these two drill sergeants that were watching, they just looked at me and they said, "What is he doing?" And I said, "What the hell is he doing?" And I knew something was wrong, but I didn't want to get recycled, so I just made it through. You know, they didn't really care. So I got through basic training, and my MOS was 11 Charlie, which was mortars, and imagine a 106-pound guy trying to carry around equipment for mortars. They thought that was funny too, and then I went to Fort Carson, Colorado, where they first started up their new training for AIT. And they sent me to the wrong place. They sent me to the mule barn part, which was permanent duty, and most of the guys there had just gotten back from Vietnam and were ETSing out of the service. And when I went into the room, this guy said, he said, "I don't understand what you're doing here." He said, "We don't have any training going on." He said, you aren't supposed to be here. And I started realizing that after the first day I was in there. I spent the whole day in the motor pool watching these two guys try to fix a flat tire on a Jeep. And I thought, wow, this is going to be easy. And so then one night, there was a guy that was driving a Jeep for posting guards, and he asked me if I wanted to take a ride over the other side of the Army post to this EM club where he said, "Sometimes there's girls over there." And I said, "Yeah, I'll go along with you." This is the middle of December or November or something, and there's about a foot of snow on the ground. So I get in the Jeep with him, and we ride over to this other EM club, and we got out and went in there and had a few beers, came out, got in the Jeep, we got out on the street, and all of a sudden there was an MP Jeep behind us with the blue light and siren. And I said, "What's going on?" And he says, "We're not supposed to have this Jeep over here at the club." And I said, "Oh," I said, "Well," and he was trying to outrun him. And I said, "Well, just pull over." I said, "They're, you know," he said, "No," he said, we're gonna lose them." And I said, "Well, stop and let me out. I don't want any part of this." And he's like, "No, I can't do that, man." And finally he pulls over, and the MPs come up there, handcuff us, and take it to the MP station. And took me back to the company, called the captain in, and he sat me down, and he said, "Well," he said, "obviously you are in the wrong place." He said, "We'll figure that out and get you sent to the right part." And I said, "Okay." He said, he said, "And another thing," he says, "we don't take Army vehicles to the clubs." And I said, "Well, I said, every Army movie I've ever seen, they're always jumping in the back of a truck and going to the bar and having a hell of a good time." And he said, "No," he said, "that's not the way it works." So I learned that pretty quick. then we got finished our training there. One day they came out and said, several of you guys have came down on orders for Vietnam, but they said, don't worry about it. You enlisted and you have a 16-month guarantee here at Fort Carson. So he said, you don't have to worry. And I had this friend of mine who was a Chicano guy, and he was my best friend in AIT. And he came up to me and he said, hey man, he says, what are we doing here at Fort Carson every night? We go to Colorado Springs and get drunk every night. He said, what did we join the Army for? To do this? He said, we want to get into the Army and get some action. And I said, well, yeah. And so we went and talked to First Sergeant and Captain and everything. What can we do to go to Vietnam? And he said, well, you can waiver your contract, just sign the paperwork. And sounded like a good idea. So we did that. And then we got 30-day leaves. And of course, I told my dad, I called him up and said, well, I guess I'm going to Nam. And I said, we signed paperwork so we can go. And he said, there was a long pause, and he said, what's wrong with you? and I said, I don't know. And we had the 30-day leave, and I go tell everybody I'm going to Nam. And they sent us to Oakland, California to be processed. As soon as we got into the reception station, this guy looked at our orders, and he said, you guys aren't going to Nam. He said, you're either going to go to Germany or Korea. Germany sounded like a lot better place to me than Korea. Mainly because I'm more attracted to German women than Asian women. And and so after 5 days, they let us know that we were going to Germany and not, so I was pretty happy. Then we had another 20-day leave, went back, then went to Fort Dix, New Jersey, and went over to Germany, and I spent 2 years over there. And that was a pretty good experience. I mean, Germany was a nice place. There was a lot of ups and downs over there. And there were a couple of times I came home on leave. We had, at that time in the Army, there was a lot of racial problems going on. That was the stuff that really bothered me more than, well, about anything of being in the service. It was just the scariness of all the racial stuff going on. And there's some stories about that. But that was 72 to 74. Yes, it was really... I mean, there were many riots that broke out in the barracks, and people were getting hurt. And back at Fort Carson, Colorado, I actually got held up in a phone booth by two guys on my birthday when I was talking to my mom, and was in the middle of a conversation with her, and two guys tapped on the window and asked me for a cigarette. Then one pulled out a gun and had it at my side and said, and while you're at it, give us your wallet. Well, I forgot my Superman costume that night, so I couldn't change into my Superman costume. And they took my wallet, and I told them, hey, I only got $2 in there, but I said, just if you could give me back my paperwork, and they laughed and took off. So they never found it, but they did find my wallet with everything but the $2 in it. So that was a relief. But then over in Germany, there were some incidents, but all in all, it was a good experience over there. It was so hard. when I I think I came home on leave twice, and it was just, excuse me, it was so hard to go back. But I made it. You know, there was a lot of fun incidents over there. They took us up to teach us how to cross country ski, which was a they took us up to this place called this actually was in Fort Carson, Colorado when they did this. They took us up to some mountain called Camp Hale. I don't know if any of you have ever been in the middle of winter. Camp Hale, they put you in the back of a 5-ton truck and drive you out over these mountains, and you end up in this place on the top of a hill with in tents, you know, big tents with those kerosene stoves in them, and the latrine was up on a hill that was up higher, and you actually had to hang on to this rope and kind of pull yourself up there to get up there because it was so slick. And then the next day they'd bring you out for us to start the training, and they'd pass out these 7-foot boards that they'd have springs on them that you attach to your overshoes, and that was your equipment. And well, of course, they gave you the ski poles. So you got like 25, 30 guys out there on the top of this hill, and then it's pretty steep hill. It goes down and makes a 90-degree right turn. And the captain gets up there and he says, "Okay," he says, "going to turn you over to Sergeant Bilachek or something." He was a Polish kid or something, and he'd had skiing experience. So he said, he's going to train you guys. And he gets out there and he says, "Okay, guys," he says, "we're going to ski down to the bottom of the hill and start the training." Now think about that. I was standing up there kind of in the back, and I thought, we're going to, did I hear that right? We're going to ski down to the bottom of the hill and then start the training. And but none of us know how to ski. And I thought, how's this going to work? So these, you know, the only thing these guys have ever seen is the guys on Wide World of Sports going down that, you know, on that big ski slope thing. So they get up there and they take off, and they're just pushing the poles into the ground, going as fast as they can. They don't know how to stop. They don't know how to turn. And I thought, I'm going to hang back. Well, you know. But I tell you what, those next 4 days of training we took I never laughed so hard in my life at all these guys, because they were from all walks of life. Some of them had never even seen snow before. And, of course, there was a big crash at the end of the road down there. But the next 4 days were so funny watching these guys try to learn how to ski. Cross-country skiing, of course, was boring, but then they took us to a civilian ski slope. And that was hilarious. The first day we went there, they didn't allow any civilians. They were closed that day to the civilians, so we got to train a little bit. Then the next day, civilians were there too, but I stayed on the bunny slope all the time. I didn't go up on the big hill. The captain got up there and said, "I want everybody to get checked out before they go up on the big slope. Don't want anybody getting hurt." Of course, he was the first one they brought down on a stretcher, twisted his ankle, and then we were. Anybody familiar with those little ski lifts for the bunny hill, where you stand up, and these poles come around, and you grab it and stick it between your legs, and it, yeah. Yeah, and then they got that spring, and you kind of fall back like that, and then pulls you up. Well, I was up at the top, and standing there just watching people come up, and all of a sudden I see this major, and we're wearing these baggy, winter OD green baggy pants and all kinds of stuff, and so it's real loose fitting clothes, and I'm watching this major's back there just climbing up the hill there, and then he gets ready to pull that thing out from between his legs, and his pants get caught on it. So he's over there trying to get that off his legs, and he can't. So he goes around and shuts the whole thing down. And I was laughing so hard. But that was just a really funny. But that was in Fort Carson, Colorado.
So you actually had some good experiences, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, there was a lot of laughs. Probably never laughed so hard in the Army as I did anywhere else. And then there's some bad times too. But there were some suicides. People got Dear John letters and bad things going on, and accidents. That's always a part of it. But then I. Oh, when I got over to Germany, they were short of squad leaders. So I was a Spec 4, E4, and they asked me if I wanted to be an acting squad leader. I've heard what an acting jack. And of course, he didn't get paid for it, but when they first tell you, hey, we're going to make you a buck sergeant, and you get to wear stripes, it sounds really
impressive.
Yeah, sounds great. And then you realize, oh, I got to hang out with these guys now that some of them are lifers, and I can't hang out with my friends. And so that was a challenge. But I was late to a formation one day and lost the stripes. And I told the captain, I said, well, I was getting a little tired of playing that game anyway, but I was getting short. I was getting close to getting out of the Army, so it didn't mean that much to me. And, of course, he didn't like it. It made him mad that I made that remark. And anyway, finally got through that. And then like I say, I was getting real close to getting out of the Army, and got out I joined in September 21st, 1971, and then got out of the Army about September, around that same time, in 1974. And then I came back here, and had a couple of little stupid jobs. I was an elevator boy and back at the old Warren Hotel. I'd go in at 7 o'clock and answer the switchboard that they still had and run the elevator. Somebody'd buzz the elevator and I'd get in, and then go work at the restaurant washing dishes in the afternoon. So did that for a while, and then I got a job out at KNEX, the radio station here.
Kleenex.
Yeah, in about 76 or something, and worked there for 7 years.
Got a question for you. What did you have in the Army that you really cherished?
Cherished?
Yeah, made some good friends, right?
Oh, yes.
I mean, those are good friends.
Yeah.
Do you stay in contact with any of them?
I am in contact with a guy that I ran around with a lot, and he lives up in Washington State. And he actually came back out here a couple of, 3 years ago. And we went to a concert in Wichita together. He was real big into music also, and it was good to see him again.
Okay, I got another question. What would you tell somebody about the military? Is it good or bad?
It's a good experience. I mean, overall, you know, you wouldn't.
You learn a lot about life.
Yes, yeah, sure. And it's always good to connect with people that have been in there, because you know we've all been through kind of the same thing. So regardless of what branch or anything like that. And I worked at KNEX for 7 years. As the morning, I'd go in at 5 and sign the station on at 6 in the morning and read news, weather, play disc jockey and everything. Of course, I worked with Bob Hapgood up there, and that was he liked to go into the transmitter room and pull his pants down and shoot the moon while you're trying to put his butt cheeks up against the window, and you're like, that was his job, to make people laugh, especially new hires out there. One day he came in with a cigarette lighter and lit my paper that I was trying to read on fire. And he said, "Here's a hot item." It was a lot of fun working there.
Got any questions for him? Danny. When were you in Colorado Springs?
That would have been the end of 71 and part of 72, early part of 72.
Bill.
Oh, I was stationed in a little town called Berblingen in a Panzer Kaserne. And it was I was in a combat support company that was attached to an armor battalion. So we had to do a lot of the lousy details for the tankers. Go pick up trash at the tank ranges and but you know, we did get training too. We took the mortars out and fired them, but we always felt like we were second to the tankers because it was an armored battalion. So I do want to mention that after I left the radio station, I went to work at Vanguard, which became Vega, and then retired from Vega in 2018. And after I retired, I just did different things, and I'm fortunate enough to say that most of you know Rita over here, Rita Stradley, who I love, and we are very close. Anyway, I did want to mention that in 2020, she lost her husband. He was a Vietnam veteran, Everett Stradley, and he lost his life due to exposure to Agent Orange when he was in Vietnam. So he's got a brick out there with his name that she dedicated to him. So,
okay, any more questions? You better be careful.
Oh. Yes, they were. But I didn't have any luck. I mean, I was.
So did you eat a lot of German food?
Oh, yeah, the food was great.
What was your best?
Too.
Wiener Schnitzels?
Wiener Schnitzel and, oh, yeah, the bratwurst over there, or you can't find any like that over here.
Nope.
Yes. Yeah, the food was great. The beer, yeah. Though I never, really tried any other beer, but I'd go into a bar or a restaurant, just say, ein Bier bitte. And
Yeah, better.
I didn't care what it was always good. One place they had a beer that it took them 20 minutes to pour it, but it had a head on it that looked like an ice cream cone. Oh, it was just good stuff. It was
Looked like 90 weight oil, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, no, I never had a dark beer over there either. Just always just regular good beer. But
Okay, anything else?
yeah, I played in a lot of country bands. Started out with Glenn Unruh and Rita. Well, Unruh at the time. Played with W.C. Edgar. And, well, a lot of country bands over the years. So, play drums, and now I've started singing, do some karaoke singing up here. A lot of fun.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Let's give him a hand, too.
Thank you guys for coming out. And appreciate all of your service, too. I think another 3 years, I'll add more to it. Make up some more stuff.